Yo, yo, we are live.
Yo.
12 Volt Talk. We're
here.
back. It's 2020.
Did you miss
and
us?
We have a guest. I think they do miss us.
I don't know. Ron says he hasn't watched one episode since 53. What's going on, Ron?
I don't know what's up with that.
He's fooling, man.
Well, we are here tonight with a special guest. One of our big YouTube fans, 123 Toyd.
That's right.
Is here with us. How's it going, man?
Man, it's going great. Thanks for having me, guys. I am super excited to be here. I've been trying to tell everyone, I'm like, man, I get to hang out with Big D Wiz of Williston Audio Labs and HiFiVega tonight. Come join us. So I'm pretty excited to be here.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to have you. And, you know, even though the things that you do are not specific to car audio,
sure,
we'll talk about, you know, some of the things you've done in the past that are related to car audio. But car audio is a lot of DIY also. And a lot of us who are in car audio are also into home audio, you know, building speaker boxes and things that you do too. So we will get into that, and excited to find out more about you and, you know, what your history, your past is with audio and stuff like that. So we'll just jump straight into it. What'd you say, Mr. Vega?
Yeah, you got intro this time.
Oh, I do. I got the intro, don't I?
Yeah. We almost forgot.
I did too. Episode 69. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the countdown real quick. I'm gonna mute both of you guys, but I'll unmute you when we're done. 5, 4, 3, 2. 12 Volt Talk, episode 69. We are back. It is 2020, and we are here with special guest 123 Toyd from YouTube. His name is Nick. He does a lot of DIY audio projects, building speakers, amplifiers, things like that, reviewing all kind of fun gear. So we're going to jump right into that. Thank you as always for joining us. I'm going to bring the other guys back in. How is it going, fellas?
Oh, man, it's going great.
Oh, yeah, going good. Let's get the episode 69 jokes. Let's get them right out in front. We'll just do them now, and we can skip them later.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be the most viewed episode because of that right there, right?
Yeah.
It probably will be flagged, but at least I won't have to worry about COPPA, right?
Yeah, for sure.
No COPPA. And those who don't do YouTube have no idea what we're talking about, but those who do YouTube, those words scare us to death.
And normally I like COPPA. And, you know, it's like copper, but with an A. COPPA.
No.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm gonna have to.
I actually taught my son that. Did it? And whenever he has a really bad joke from me, he's 3 years old. And whenever he has a really bad joke from me, he goes, did it?
There you go. Bringing him up right.
I am. Yeah.
He would, as Rob would say, he would do that a lot around me because dad joke master is what I am.
I call it dad joke Tourette's, but same thing.
Call it what you want. So we welcome Nick here from his YouTube channel is 123 Toyd is what it is. We're going to get into what's up with the name here in a little bit. But first off, Nick, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into audio?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you guys asked that because I got into audio for two reasons, really. One was car audio. Car audio, when we grew up, was really big back in the day, right? Now, I never got into competition-wise like you guys got into, but one of my good friends, Ramey, he had this awesome truck where he had some kicker solo barracks and that thing, and we bounced quarters off the roof. I mean, it was fun. But I didn't really get into car or into home audio until my friend Robbie brought me over to his dad's house, and in there he had a home theater going up with the projection screen. This is like before projection screens were cool, and it was also, 640, just regular 320 by 640, and it was really big blurry screen. But he had some definitive technology speakers in there that blew you out of the water. And once I heard that, man, I just got sunk in, and I just started diving head in right after that.
Kind of on that, what was the first system that you remember having, or beside that system that really you enjoyed or were proud of, since we already kind of know the one that got you into audio?
Yeah, so the one that was really exciting is when I was still in high school, I was so excited. My dad, for Christmas, gave me this piece of cardboard, and it looked like a target that you shoot with a gun. I was like, what the heck is this, Dad? And I was like, thanks. And he's like, they're speakers. And I was like, oh. And so he brought me out to where the speakers were because they were big. And he bought me these big old KLH speakers that were, in all honesty, not good, but they were like $50 for the pair or something. But it was really cool, and they had a big 12-inch woofer in there, and I mean, I was like rocking the house with those things. And so I was kind of proud of that, just because it was, my dad bought them for me, and it was kind of the first thing that I really got to mess around with.
Yeah, that's neat. Those KLH speakers, I can probably envision in my mind what they look like, because a lot of the speakers probably back in the late 80s, early 90s were, they look like they come from a tower system setup, like where you buy a rack system, have the two speakers beside the rack and everything's the same height. And the big drivers, and I don't know if you ever took that speaker out of the cabinet to look at the magnet on the back.
Oh, I did. Yeah, it's tiny.
it's small, and they didn't have a lot of throw to them, but they also were very efficient, so they didn't require a lot of power. But yeah, I mean, it's neat. It's neat that you had that passion at an early age, and it's neat that your dad got you those too, because we always have to have somebody influence us to kind of get into audio. Usually it's a friend, a relative, a parent, whatever. But that's really interesting that's how that started. So if you think back about maybe your first, we call it real audio system, and maybe that's one that, beyond the KLH. So after you got the KLH and used it, rocked it for a few years, and you decided you were going to save up, what type of system was your next, kind of upgrade path?
During college, I didn't have a lot of money, and so I had to work my way through college. And one of the ways that I worked my way through college was I became the manager of a home theater department. And when I was managing that, I got to play around with a lot of stereo equipment, so I didn't really need to have a ton in my home. But they had some accommodation offers that you could get through them. And right before I left, I bought myself a whole Klipsch setup, the best line that I could get. So I got these Klipsch towers, each with dual 8-inch woofers in them, the Klipsch center, the 2 surrounds, a 12-inch subwoofer, and all of it for $500, which it was supposed to be, it retailed for about $4,000. So the fact that you got it for $500 was unreal. And so that was like my first real system. I've come to not like it as much as I did when I first got it, but for me, it was really cool to be able to do that. And I think that's one of the things that brought me into DIY speaker building. Was I realized that with the money that I had, I couldn't really necessarily afford the types of products that I really wanted. And so when I found this DIY world, I was like, wait, I can build this and it can be better than what I want, and I can do it for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Definitely. Yeah. About car systems.
Yeah.
Did you have any memorable ones of your own?
Yeah. So I had one. My friend Ramey, who I talked about earlier, he used to work at a Best Buy, and he bought me my first subwoofers. Now, they're Best Buy subwoofers. They weren't great. They were like, I don't know, it's probably 2000 or something. He bought me some. Well, he didn't buy me. I paid for them, but he got me some Pioneers, and then I went out and got a Clarion. Oh no, it wasn't a Clarion. It was an Eclipse amp, along with this nice, beautiful Alpine stereo, and I put it in my Ford Bronco with, all the lights, the black lights and the LEDs underneath the car. And I absolutely love that thing. I would pound that thing hard. And I remember, like, one of the most memorable moments in that car was it snowed. I lived in Illinois. It snowed. My dad was building a building out there. And when he was building this building, they had moved like all this dirt all around. And we brought the Bronco there and we started jumping it over onto the snow. And I remember all of a sudden jumping and going, whoa, bam! What the heck was that noise? I looked in the back, and the subwoofer box had actually flipped with the 212s and the amp, turned around and landed back on the amplifier. So I think that's a big cautionary tale to always make sure that your equipment's secured well.
Yeah. So when we say strap your amplifier, we're talking about screw it down, not
Yes.
try to wire them together, because some people think that's a different term.
For sure. Hey, a total side jag to that. We got a friend. He's the bass cop. He's on YouTube. He actually does like a competition level SPL system, and he shared some pictures of a accident he came across where the subwoofers were ejected from the vehicle, not mounted. And he's, it's like always mount your speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dangerous. Anything in your car, you don't think about it, but if it's not strapped down and you get into an accident, yeah, projectiles for sure. And speakers, they can do some damage.
Yeah.
Amplifiers, yeah, they can do some damage with the wires wrapped around them too.
And definitely don't go out in the snow jumping your Bronco around if you don't have them strapped down either.
Well, we all have to learn. You have to have fun when you're a kid, right? We all did dumb things, so.
Oh,
we
yeah.
won't talk about my water balloon launching days. So we all did stuff that was fun. So that's cool, and I've seen a lot of your videos, and I know a lot of your content is built around the DIY area. And Rob and I both have been big fans of Parts Express for years.
Yeah.
Just because that's like the coolest geek catalog for people who like stereo equipment. Because I used to go through and, we talked about it before the show started. You talked about some of the Definitive Technology home speakers that had like a 15-inch sub on the side, and they had the 6.5s in the front, the tweeters in the top, all that. And I used to go through Parts Express, and I would create a list of all these different speakers that I could build my own like massive home towers. And then even if you got the cheapest stuff at Parts Express, by the time you add it up, the crossovers that you needed, all the drivers, the tweeters, the mid ranges, it was still $400 or $500 before shipping, even back then.
Yeah.
But it's kind of it's still fun because you're like you said before too. You're comparing with the DIY world. You're comparing literally, something that if you go out and buy from a company that does a finished system like that with a finished cabinet, you're talking 10 times as much, 5 to 10 times as much. So it is neat. So with all that said, why don't you tell us about what got you into DIY audio and when you started building your own speakers?
Well, I'd actually gotten out of DIY audio for a long time. Family, I got married, job life. And I recently I got back into it. And I remember some of the things, like, especially with the YouTube channel, one of the things that actually brought up the YouTube channel where people were asking questions about how to read like schematics, and they didn't know how to read them. And so I'm like, well, I know how to do that. I'll just tell people, because that's all I really wanted to do was help people out. I really could care less about anything else. And so I posted it, and then that was kind of my reawakening back into DIY audio. And then I built my wife like a little Bluetooth boombox, and she loved it. And then next thing I know, it just kind of exploded from there, where I started building things like the Dynas behind me, which I collaborated with Joe and Tell. The other way, those are the SO7s. Those ones I collaborated with Double Sum. And I think one of the things that got me so excited about getting back into it is being able to see the excitement of other people when they started listening to these things and realizing, holy cow, I can get a speaker like that, and it's only cost me, like the Dynas, I think cost was it like $200 or around $300 for the components. So $300 for the components. And I don't know of a speaker that you can buy that would compete anywhere near that price. So for me, that's kind of the thing that got me back into DIY speaker building.
Oh, I was waiting on D. It's my turn. So I'm going to skip the next question because that's a more of a good Dereck question. I'm going to ask you, building these speakers, do you consider yourself a woodworker?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I do. I know I already told you this, but I'll tell other people. My last house we bought in Pennsylvania, it was unlivable when we bought it. We got it for a steal, but we fixed it completely up from the ground up. I mean, you talk about those home renovation things. That's basically what we did. And we had 30 days to complete it. Actually, that scratched out. My wife reminded me it was 45 days, which is a big difference. So, I remember sleeping in the house fixing this thing up while she was still like living in our apartment at the time because I just didn't have very much time. And so I've always been, handy with my hands and stuff. And then, as I got into more of the hardwoods, I started doing a lot more hardwood things like the dynos back there. Those have like a mahogany inlay in them, and started building things like that. I think we built a few cabinets, and I built like countertops in my old theater room, and pretty much everything.
Yeah, it is kind of funny how doing these projects, and it gets you into like, okay, now, I'm building a desk right now, but doing these little speaker projects, you're like, okay, now I'm getting better, honing my skills, and you can just it takes you into full on woodworking at some point, it seems.
Absolutely. I mean, now I have my wife saying, "Hey, Nick, can't you build this?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
When?
That's the classic. My wife, she's on Pinterest all the time. Like, can we build this? Like, yes, but I could buy it cheaper. I can buy it way cheaper, and it won't take any of my time.
Yeah, I actually don't mind building it, but Pinterest is. I think I'm going to find a way to block that on my router so that it can just be blocked from there, because it is dangerous.
Yeah, but it's so neat to have the tools, obviously, to do the things you need to do, and It's amazing what you can do with very few tools. But then a lot of the guys you see that do the woodworking channels, they'll have a tool for everything. But then if you go back, you can realize, well, hey, you really can get by with very basic tools. But I think as everything and people develop, you always want to get more tools to make things easier. The pocket jigs and all that type stuff, that we never really used back in the day, but it's still cool to have the tools.
Well, and this is one thing that I always tell people, because people do ask me that, how can I afford those tools? Because, you look at a table saw brand new, if you're looking at a cabinet table saw, you're looking at like $2,000 to $3,000, right? I mean, you look at it like even just a good contractor saw is going to cost you at least $400. And so people say, how do I get in this? And I'll tell them the same way I got into woodworking and the equipment for the speaker building, auctions. My very first router I got, at least auctions were huge in Pennsylvania. They're not so big where I live now in Tennessee, but my first router cost me $1 and it came with a router stand. My first table saw, I got a really nice table saw for about $100. And I passed on one because I didn't have a way to get it home. It went for $10 and it came with a planer. So, you just got to be smart with these. Right when I moved here, a guy sold me a Powermatic 66, which is one of the best cabinet table saws they made for years. He had it just sitting in his garage, hadn't been used. And I had to do some work on it, fix it back up. Sold it to me for $150. Brand new. That thing costs over $3,000. So, for me, just get out there and look for some of the used stuff, because used tools, there's a lot of them. And if you're willing to get your hands a little bit dirty and fix things up, you can find some really good deals.
That's a good point, and that kind of even goes back to what we talked about before the show, some of the other YouTubers that we watch. And the one I was telling you about, LGR, Lazy Game Reviews, he actually does one where he goes to, he calls it thrifting. I think a lot of people do that on YouTube too. But stuff like you're talking about, that would be really cool if you still do things like that, to even capture that. I know it's not part of exactly what you do in your videos, but still people seeing, hey, you can go to auctions, you can go to yard sales, you can find this equipment if you look, take the time. That would be kind of neat, to show that, I think, because I think more people want to know how to do that too.
Yeah, and I think it's a lost thing with our generation, because I talk to a lot of my friends and I say, hey, man, I'm going to an auction tonight. You want to go with me? And they're like, what? What's there? What are you doing? I'm like, dude, I don't know what's going to be there. You never know. But I used to use the website auctionzip.com. It's a great website. They usually put a bunch of pictures out of everything that's going to be there. You can take a look. You can even search by the name of what you're looking for. So if you're looking for a router, or if you're looking for a planer, you can see if it's going to be in one of those auctions. And where I used to live, it was fantastic. They would have about 10 or 12 auctions a day. So, yeah, it was insane. But I'm no longer in Pennsylvania, so it's harder to do that.
You're going to be on Amazon a lot now. You're living in the South.
Dude, I already am, and I think the Amazon people hate me because they come to our house like every day. Like, can you just order like everything in one day, please? Like,
yeah, I think we're kind of all like that. Well, this is not one of the questions we had on the list, and you know, sometimes I like to shock Rob by stepping outside the box. But do you make any of your DIY builds to sell? Like, I don't know, do you list anything on eBay, or do you do it on your website or anything like that, or is it just all personal projects?
So I do. I also run a company where I build and design custom speakers for people. So one of the last designs I did, which I was talking to HiFiVega about the other day, was I built a recording studio, custom recording monitors. They included a 500-watt ice power amplifier in there, just fantastic, beautiful sounding speakers. They had a 10-inch subwoofer and just a beautiful linear response. So I do things like that. I don't do a lot of it. Some of the builds I've been contemplating selling. Most of the builds, believe it or not, I give away, which a lot of people probably think that's unwise. But, you know, I find someone that really likes it. And for the Vroom Vroom Boom, for example, I love that build. It's one of my favorite builds, which was kind of stupid, right? But there was this Instagram contest that said, let's see who can come up with the coolest audio themed boombox. And so I came out with one which was really cool. It looked just like the rear end of, I guess, either a Corvette or GTR. Of course, it was really my imagination. And the speakers were the taillights, so they were with red LEDs all around them. The spoiler was the handle, you could pick it up, and the exhaust was actually the ports that ported out the sound. You can find it on YouTube. It's called the Vroom Vroom Boom. One of my favorite builds that doesn't really get a lot of attention. And one of my friends approached me and just absolutely loved it. And so I said, "You really like it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I said, "You can have it, man." So
that's the way. I mean, if you don't got to ship it, if you don't have to ship it, that's the way to do it. You know, people always talk about, why don't you do more giveaways on your channel? Be like, well, because I get this stuff in and I have to pay to ship it to you. That's not cheap to do it all the time, and nobody watches those videos anyways.
No, they really don't. You're right.
I'm sorry, Rob. I'm checking out that video, and I'll share it right here real quick before we get to the next question, because I'm sure I've watched all of your videos, but I can't say that I remember this one. But I don't know if you got. Yeah, let's see. Let's go back a little bit. You guys can get an idea there. It does look like the back of a kind of like a GTR, I guess. But that's really neat. Let me scroll back.
Yeah, I ended up winning that competition because of that. It was really cool though, and it had an awesome response. It sounded great.
Yeah, that's too cool. Yeah, we'll have to link that one. We'll link that one in the chat so people can go check that out after the show. I'll go ahead and paste it down here, Rob, so everybody can see it. And I'll stop sharing the screen here so you can go on with the next question.
Oh, well, it's kind of related to this anyways. You know, that was one of your favorite builds.
Yeah.
What are some of your other favorite builds that you've done?
Actually, the two of them behind me are some of my favorites. The Dynas are huge. In fact, I think anyone that's in car audio that really want like a good speaker, I think the Dynas fit that bill perfectly because it's exactly what you would look for. And I think in a car audio setup, and I love that. So me and Joe and Tell actually collaborated on that project. It uses a Tang Band 5.25-inch subwoofer that will blow you out of the room. I mean, it's crazy when you put two of those in there. Now those are self-powered speakers, so they have an amplifier in them that power both the top, which is the tweeter, and the mid-range, and then it self-power the woofer underneath. So each one gets about 50 watts of power, and that thing it's phenomenal. I brought that to Midwest. That speaker's been recognized by a lot of people too. It was asked to go to Rocky Mountain Audio Fest and Midwest Audio Fest. I showed at Midwest Audio Fest, and I don't know how many people were blown away. One of the guys, remember Jason, he was holding his daughter. I'm playing this in this huge warehouse, right? So I mean, it shouldn't do much. And all of a sudden, I put on this song. I think it was something by, I can't remember the name, so it doesn't matter. And the bass dropped, and this guy, I thought he was going to drop his child. He was holding his child, and he looks at me, and he literally says, "Where are you hiding the subwoofer, dude?" And I said, man, it's just those. And he thought he was being pranked or punked or something. So I really like that. The bass is completely adjustable, so you can turn your bass up and down. And the SO7s next to it, those are like a high end build, but those sound really good. They use a Peerless Corundum and a Peerless Corundum and a Dayton Esoteric driver. And I remember watching one of your guys' episodes, and Dereck was talking about a subwoofer he would just leave on the table because it looks so pretty. You talk about the drivers in there, it's the same thing. I mean, they're a work of art. I almost wish I could have made like a plexiglass enclosure to show them off because they're just so beautiful. And the sound quality that you get out of them is pretty amazing. So they sound really good.
So have you built speakers like for your home theater, or do you have a home theater and you built all? I don't know. We didn't ask that question, I don't think, in the list here, but I'm just curious because.
Yeah. So no, go ahead.
You go ahead. I'm done.
Okay. Yeah. So my last house, actually, believe it or not, because I told you we had to redo it. One of the stipulations with my wife, because anyone that's married understands that there's a little negotiation going on in a marriage, right? So you have a little give and take. So my wife's like, okay, fine. If you fix up the entire house in 45 days, then you can build yourself a home theater in the basement. And so that's what I did. I built myself an entire home theater. I'll have to do a video on it sometime. I took a lot of pictures. We built the riser, the 120-inch screen. We had the 3D projector. I mean, it was fantastic. And I built speakers for there, although those speakers left with the house. So I'm actually creating a brand new system. Those videos are going to be coming out soon. They're going to be using some Tang Band 8-inch underhung woofers. And if you guys have seen those speakers, they're unbelievable. And the way that I built these is really cool. It's like a 2-way on top, and the other woofer is a half, so 2.5 way. But that half-inch, yes, life acceptance factor is real. And that half-inch is, or that 0.5 only does bass. And this thing, the way that these are designed for you to be able to use them without a subwoofer, because in home theater, you want to have bass all around you. And they're really cool. So they're called the Uglies. They're going to be coming out soon. So if you guys want to see that, or if you want to build your own, those are going to be pretty exciting. Although they're going to have to take a real amplifier. They're going to be a true 4-ohm speaker.
There you go. That's the world we play in, the 4-ohm speakers. But talking about the dynas that you built with Joe and Tel,
yeah,
we talk with Joe quite often, and those fit him perfect because he's really a bass head. He's a hi-fi guy, but he's a bass head. He knows it. We know it, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah, and so am I, and that's why I love them, because you can turn that bass up and crank it, and it's literally like you can actually set the frequency response on the back of the amplifier. So there's some bass heads that like a little bit more bass, even in like almost the mid-range area. I don't like that so much. I cut it off much sooner, but you have complete control over that too, which is nice.
Yeah, I noticed you said a lot of your projects there had built-in amplification.
No, just the dynas.
Oh, just the dynas. Okay, so that was kind of a question. What do you feel about putting a plate amp inside of a speaker versus using a separate amp or receiver or whatever?
I have no problem with that. I mean, anyone that wants to do that, and that's kind of the thing that I love about DIY is build it the way you want to, whatever fits your style, man. If you think the dynas look ugly, build them differently. I don't care, and that's the thing that I think is really cool about this. Build it to your style, build it to your likes, build it to your taste, like personal preference audio wise. One of the things that I absolutely love to do that a lot of people frown upon in the hi-fi world, but I don't care because I think it's cool, is to build a passive tower speaker, right? So have like a mid-range and tweeter like normal on the top, but then build in a powered subwoofer in the bottom. And that does so many good things for you. One, now you can take away that other subwoofer box that's in the middle of your room somewhere that your wife says you can't put that in here, right? You can now put that in there. Or if you want it to look like a piece of furniture, make it look like a piece of furniture, make it look like whatever. But for me, having that powered subwoofer is really cool inside tower speakers. And I think that's one of the things that made me really love definitive technology as well.
Or you could just have them built into your front speakers and have the other ones in the back too, right? Because more bass is always good.
See, Dereck, I told you he was one of our guys.
Yes, sir.
He's one of us.
Oh yeah, I mean, in my home theater, I remember I even put bass shakers on all the seats. Now some people don't like that, but man, I loved it, man. There's a scene in King Kong right after the woman gets caught, and she tries to escape through the tunnel, and King Kong bounces down there and starts growling. I remember when he growls, man, your whole seat's shaking, and everyone's like, "Oh!" I loved it. There are some people that didn't like it, but I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. I have a semi little theater here. I did a video about it, I don't know, a couple years ago. It's nothing real fancy. It's like a playroom for the kids, but I'd set up a projector, and it's just a 5.1 system. But Rob has been over here and seen it, and it's pretty decent for what it is. It's just fun, like you said. Maybe one day I'll put theater seats in once the kids grow up, and don't need the floor for playing around. But
yeah, I've been on there, and I blew it up on a Beat Saber on the PS4 on there.
Yeah, Beat Saber is really cool with a projector. I mean, because people in the room can see it too. It's pretty sweet.
Well, like I told Rob, and I'll mention this to you too, man. I'm always up for collaborating with people. So if you guys ever want to build some like speakers for your theater, and you say, "Hey, man, this is what I want. Let's see if we can make it happen." I'm always for that.
Yeah, we definitely need to do it because, like, one of the reasons Rob and I started 12 Volt Talk was to get kind of the same thing Joe Intel is doing. He's trying to get a lot of the audio guys together too, because we're all enthusiasts in audio, whether it's car audio, home audio, portable Bluetooth speakers, whatever you do. We all kind of just like audio. So it's neat that we can all kind of, cross paths, no matter if your specialty is not car audio, you still enjoy it. I'm sure you still like to build things, which people who are into car audio either, build things or have somebody else do it for them. But it's all about sounding better, right? Because nobody likes stock. And that's a teaser for an upcoming video for me about the F-150's B&O premium sound system.
Oh, you don't like the Bang & Olufsen premium?
Oh my goodness, what a waste of money! But yeah, it's going to be fun because I've got Dean from 5 Star Car Stereo who does installs all day, every day, and I'm gonna get him to tell us a little bit about what he thinks about it, because they pull those systems out and put aftermarket systems in all the time, and yeah, it'll be fun. But the problem is, Rob and I've talked about this before too, is it works into your monthly payment, right? Because if I go to a car stereo shop afterwards and spend $3,000, then you got to spend $3,000 to put it on your credit card or whatever. But yeah, it's crazy, man, what the markup is for that stuff. They make a killing on the aftermarket or on the premium audio systems, and they're junk.
Let's be honest, they make a killing off the name.
Yeah, sure.
B&O or Harman Kardon. Not that any of those are bad speakers or anything, but it's just that's what you're paying for.
Now, when we were at the Kicker facility,
I was just fixing to mention that.
Yeah, Rob and I were there. Now, they showed us their OEM speakers, and it was literally the same aftermarket speaker that you buy from Kicker in an OEM plastic casing. So, I mean, the Kicker stuff, in my opinion, is probably some of the best OEM type equipment that you can get, because it's just really good quality. But this other stuff, like I had people, I asked some of the installers to get me pictures of the B&O just so I could show the magnet and show what the speaker cone looked like, and just how it was made. And they look just like any other factory speaker that comes out. There's nothing premium about them at all. So,
well, it's funny that you say that, because it's the same thing like if you were to take apart some of these high-end audio speakers. Actually, me and Rob were talking about this yesterday. There's this a speaker called the Bonicky W5, and this actually behind me right here is almost a clone of a Bonicky W5. The Bonicky W5 costs, I don't remember right off the top of my head, but it's something like $10,000. Now they do CNC directly into hardwood, so that does add value to it. But if you take the components themselves are, if memory serves me right, about $150 for the components. And they're all components that you can buy directly from Parts Express. So, and that's kind of one of the things you look at, like with a lot of these OEM drivers, when you're buying these things, a lot of them, believe it or not, you're buying the cheaper end of the driver. Like, you're not buying the Dayton Esoterics in there, right? Like most of them, you're not. you're buying the Dayton basic line. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's what you're going to get. It's not going to be anything premium. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why you can get so much more value out of DIY if you're able to do it, is because you can put the more premium equipment in, which a lot of people say, well, is it just the magnets? It isn't. It's the magnets, it's the rubber surround, it's what the cone material is made out of. And all of that also equates to less distortion. And less distortion is what you want in a speaker. If you want a speaker to sound really good, you want something with very, very low distortion. And so anyway, to play off of what you said.
Yeah, I think the guy at the gas station earlier tonight might disagree because he was all about distortion. But big shout out to Sean K for the $5 super chat. He hit us way early at the very beginning of the show, and we just recently got one here as well from Mark Crawley. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you helping support our show as always.
Yeah, for sure. And
go ahead, Rob.
All right, let's talk about YouTube. So let's just start off with this. We know the story because we heard it before, but how did you come up with the name 123 Toyed?
If you'll excuse me, I'll be back. No, just kidding. Oh man, this is quite embarrassing, really. No, it's not really embarrassing. Truthfully, I never intended to have a YouTube channel. I mean, that's just the truth behind it. A lot of people think I set out to have this awesome YouTube channel on DIY audio. I didn't. I fell into it. And it's been a huge blessing since. And it's been, I think, a blessing to a lot of you guys too, which I'm really happy about. Basically, I started my YouTube channel a long time ago, like when YouTube first came out or something. You needed to have a username to watch videos or sign in or something, or to save videos, I think it was. And I couldn't think of a channel name. And I'm looking down at an Altoids container, and I'm like, oh, Toyed. And then 123, because Toyed was taken. And so that kind of just blossomed from there. And the funny thing is, and I told you guys this, so my first videos were like helping people out. It was shot with like a cell phone camera, the wrong orientation, but I just shot it out because I'm like, man, there's a lot of people on the forums that I could see that needed help, and just, I'm a visual guy. I'm not a huge book reader and get it. I mean, I do read books and I do understand it, but I would much rather be watching a video on it and be hands-on with it. And so I'm thinking, well, hey, if I'm that way, there's going to be other people as well. So let me go ahead and help these people out. And so I put out this video on, basically how to read the schematic and create the overnight sensation crossover. And I created like a 5-part series of it, or 3-part series. Didn't think anything of it. Never looked at YouTube again. And next thing I know, I get an email in my inbox from YouTube that says, hey, do you want to make money off of YouTube? And I'm like, what is this, a spam thing? But I clicked on it and I looked and I saw all these views on these videos. I had no idea. And so when I saw that, I said, I'm sure there's other things that I can also help people with. Why don't I go ahead and try to help them out as well? And so I did. And real quick, I know we're not getting to this yet, but I do just have to make a shout out to True Voice of Reason real quick, just because he's been a really big supporter of mine for a long time and really big on my forum and everything. And so I just appreciate him. So I just want to give him a quick shout out as well.
Absolutely, man. Anything you want to say? I had your channel pulled up there a minute ago, and I'll pull it back up so people can see it. But if you just go to YouTube and type 123 Toyd, Toid, you can see some of his videos. And we haven't really talked about this before, but I think Rob and I have talked about it before. One of the most frustrating parts about YouTube for me is people finding the videos that you've made. So like if you go to the channel, sure enough, you click on videos, you can see the list of what you've uploaded. If you click on the little magnifying glass here, you can type something in, it'll find it on your channel. But I don't know if you guys have noticed, but on mobile, the little magnifying glass thing is not there on mobile. So I've always thought, and that's why I have oldschoolstereo.com, but I always thought it would be good for people to have like their own organization, like their own website with an organization pattern set up, because like stuff I do home stuff, I do car stuff, I do amplifier projects, whatever, and have it all separated, because I've got over 500 videos and you've got a lot too. Rob's got a lot, and people just don't know, what your videos are unless you're lucky and they do a Google search or do a YouTube search and find one of your videos. But the organization that YouTube does is not very good. It's not user friendly. And I don't know. I hope they'll fix that one day in the future. But in my experience, unless you just have a catchy or a popular phrase in your title or somewhere in your video description, it's hard for people to find your videos. And I'm sure you probably get it too. Hey, have you ever built blah blah blah? You're like, well, yeah. Haven't you checked my channel out? I mean, do you guys notice that too, or is it just me? I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, YouTube's the worst. I was just complaining on my last video about the notification bell that they added because they couldn't fix the first time with the subscriptions. Now the notification bell doesn't work. So I do love YouTube, but I got a lot of problems with YouTube being a creator as well. So I think it's just a battle for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And I think we've all talked about this too, how you never know which video is going to do well. All of a sudden you have a video that blows up. And one of my best videos was actually on car audio. It's right there in the bottom left-hand corner, how to make a home stereo from a car stereo. And I remember because I'm like, I mean, I have all this audio equipment sitting around my house. What am I going to do with it? And I remember thinking, man, I have nothing else to do a video on. I had just done a video not too long ago about how to make those Sprite speakers. It was a different version of the Sprite speakers. And then I decided, oh, let's do this video. Who knows? And then it blew up, and I had no idea that it was going to blow up. Uh-oh. Thank you. But, and I think that's the other thing too. Like you said, you never know which one's going to blow up. You don't know which one's going to do good. And that's why it's so important to have, like you have, all these people that are supporting you on a day in and day out, watching the videos either way. It's a really good way to just reinforce that what you're doing is helping people out.
Yeah, I agree. Rob and I have talked about it too. You don't ever know what's going to be popular. One of my most popular videos is one I almost didn't do, which was a kicker mini amplifier that was really small, and it was only like 200 watts. And for car audio, that's a very small amplifier these days. And that video it's got almost 2 million views now. It's just, you just never know what's going to be. But things like this, I get a lot of questions, and I don't think I have done one video, but it was years ago. But people ask this question all the time because, they can find car audio head units pretty cheap. Mm-hmm. Goodwill, they can find bookshelf type speakers. And they just, hey, I want to just, like maybe even us being kids in high school or even middle school, you want to do your first audio project, stuff like this, you can put together a whole system really, really cheap. And you're learning, how to wire up electronics, what ground and what your positive battery voltage is and turn on and everything that's involved. But yeah, I mean, I think your title on this one is really good, and that probably helps. But overall, it's a great video. It's obvious. You got 862,000 views. So, I mean, that's incredible.
And 800 dislikes.
761.
That's 761. I'm an optimist. Yeah, I think you're right about that. And what I tell people too, a lot of times, if you're looking for old car audio stuff, one place that I think a lot of people overlook and don't think about, and this is a place where I used to always go, is junkyards. You can find a lot of good head units. In fact, one of the junkyards I used to go to all the time, they would take out all the aftermarket head units and stick them up. And if you know what you're looking for, like if you know model numbers, if you're pretty good at that, you'll find them. The place that I would go to, like they would have the same price for all the head units. It didn't matter if it was a DVD head unit. It didn't matter if it was a navigation head unit. It didn't matter if it was just a standard car stereo head unit. They had the same price, aftermarket car units, and they would take them out of the cars before they got in there. And so, I'm a big, do things on a budget, do things smartly if you're going to do it. Can you go buy a head unit for $1,000 at Crutchfield or whatever? Sure. But if you can find that same head unit at a junkyard for $50, I mean, I'm all for that. Of course, you got to be careful too, because you might buy one for $50. It's not worth $50. So.
That's true. But I mean, that's a cool pro tip. But the other thing too is now with the availability of cell phones and searching, you know, eBay listings that have sold, you can find out pretty quickly if it's worth the money. But that's a good tip. I think that's something a lot of people listening to this may not realize.
But you didn't mention the best way to figure out the price on something. You go to Facebook, go to a car audio group, and you just ask, hey, how much is this worth? Then they can Google it for you and tell you.
Yeah, that's the most annoying thing ever.
or they could post that little Google thing that actually shows people how to go click and then type google.com and type their search. I can't remember. It's some website that would generate all that stuff for you. It made a little video or something. But yeah, that's important because people are lazy, man. It's unbelievable how many tools people have for looking up stuff like that, and they ask. And I get that question all the time. Hey, can you tell me about blah, blah, blah? And I'll just type it into Google. And I'm like, have you searched? Because I find everything that I want to know right here on the first page.
First page every time. And that's one thing I try to tell you. And I told you guys this earlier, is always look for deals. Because just because I'm a DIY guy doesn't mean I buy, like I make everything. I don't. Some of my favorite home theater speakers that I have were those Definitive Technology towers that I have downstairs. I'm actually giving those to a friend now, but they have a 15-inch subwoofer in them. They're bipolar, so they have speakers on the front and the rear shooting around. And this system, when it came out, was probably close to $5,000 to $7,000 with the towers, the center speaker, and the rear speakers and everything I got. And I picked it up for, I believe, around $500 on Facebook Marketplace, because I knew what Definitive Technology was. I knew I'd heard them, and I knew they were good. And so if you're willing to take a chance on them, you know, you can get some really good deals. I mean, even the center speaker had an 8-inch powered subwoofer in them.
Wow, in the center?
Yeah, the center had an up. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, actually. I think that's why not?
Yeah, all about the bass, man. No treble. You know, we kind of went over one of your most viewed videos. Do you have one that you're like most proud of, or you put the most work into something? Like what's your video that you love? Because you, as a YouTube creator, you kind of know you get a little bit cringy on your early videos, but hey, they're out there, and you just got to accept that. But what's the one that you are most proud of?
You know, I think some of my newer videos I'm more proud of it because I didn't set out to create a YouTube channel. My older videos, which I mentioned to you, not only were not good video quality because, you know, I was using just whatever I had, cell phone. I didn't have lighting equipment. I didn't have recording equipment. I had so many people saying, man, your audio is terrible, and yet you teach people about audio. And it's true. But I think my newer videos are a little bit better. And the reason why I believe they're better is because I'm finally relaxed enough to be myself. And those older videos, when I was so concerned about what I was saying and what I was doing, I mean, I was mislabeling things. Like, this is a capacitor, obviously. I was calling those like resistors or inductors sometimes, not because I didn't know what it was, but because I was so nervous on the video. And then, of course, everyone notices when you say something wrong. So, you know, I think for me, especially the last couple of videos, just where I'm able to kind of just relax and be myself is a little bit more exciting for me.
Yeah, it comes across that way. You know, I always tell people when I was in middle school and high school, I was like the scaredest kid in the class to stand in front of people and talk to them. And, you know, once I got into college, I don't know, something just flipped in my head that I don't really care what people think. And then it was so much easier for me to talk. But nowadays, the only thing I can tell people is I encourage everybody who's interested in making content, showing things in video, whatever, do it, but just pretend like you're talking to a friend. I mean, pretend like you're talking to somebody you know that's on the other side of what the camera is, right? And then it's more natural. But if you're trying to do it very robotically, it comes across, you know, comes across and nobody wants to see the Mr. Roboto. We want it to be very interesting. So I was scrolling through some of your videos, and I thought of something about the one where you made your own speaker wire and stuff like that, the hi-fi speaker wire. So what are your opinions on the real high-end interconnects and the ones that are directional and the real expensive speaker cable? What do you think about all that stuff? You think it's magic dust, or is there something to it?
I think that if you're going to spend the money on those cables, you should do your research. Figure out for yourself what you believe and trust. I have never been able to hear a discernible difference with any type of quality wire. So assuming that you're buying something already shielded and good quality, I've never been able to tell a difference. Now, if you have that golden ear that you can somehow hear the difference between a $10,000 speaker wire and a $10 speaker wire, that all the more power to you, and I'm happy for you to do that. I will not be doing that. That's the reason why I put how to make your own hi-fi speaker, which is another video that shot up and went pretty viral and that was just something I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to show people how to do this. This is cool. Never expected people to like that video.
And that's actually the first video I've ever seen by you. And I can imagine the amount of hate. I'm sure you got a lot of hate on that video.
Yeah. Although, you know what? Actually, not so many dislikes of that video. But yeah, I did get a lot of hate. People were saying all kinds of things like, why would you make $10 speaker wire look like $1,000 speaker wire and stuff? But if you're going to show it off, if it's going to be in your house, you want it to look good too. I mean, all countertops are the same, right? To a certain degree, all countertops are the same. They hold stuff, but some people want granite and some people want, just your normal prefabricated countertop. Whatever you want to get, you get yourself. If you just want to have $10 speaker wire, you get it. But for me, I want a little bit nicer flash when people look behind my gear and say, oh, that looks good. And for the videos, when I hook things up, it looks good.
Yeah, and with the speaker wires, like you're saying, there's a point of quality in which you start to get, and we've talked about on this show, in anything, car audio, home audio, life, diminishing returns. Once you get to a certain level of quality, the level from a $100 analog RCA to a $10,000 analog RCA, it's negligible at best. And if you've done a double-blind test, I don't know that you'd be able to even tell them, or the people that say they can. I don't know if they could do it more than 50%, and 50% is just pure chance.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's no, and I mean, I think that's one of the problems with some of the things that people talk about is you got to find some type, like if you're going to spend that much money, I can say whatever I want to. Like I can tell you that the dynos will transport you to a magical land of fairy dust if you just listen to them and you buy them and you put them in your house, right? I can tell you that. I would absolutely be lying, and you would only know when you bought them. But there is a certain degree that when you buy something and you spend a certain amount of money on it, you have the expectation psychologically to believe that it is better, and it's just not always the case. Unfortunately, sometimes that's more of a placebo effect of we spent so much money, it now has to sound better.
Psychoacoustics is a big thing for sure.
Sure.
And yeah, psychos are big things. So real quick, I think Rob put a thread up earlier, but I want to give William Berg a shout out here for the super chats. Thank you, sir. And Mr. G Nava, thank you as well for helping support the show. We greatly appreciate that. So we've talked about your most viewed video, the one about how to create, use your car stereo equipment at home. The most proud of video.
Can we go back to the most proud of real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Now that I think about it, I think one of the most proud of videos that I really think about is how to make a DIY amplifier, or how to make a DIY hi-fi amplifier. Basically, how to make it for $3,000 for $300. The reason why I think I'm most proud of that isn't because it's my best video. It's really not my best video. The people have mentioned that the focus game is not that best. You're absolutely correct. It's not. I'm not a videographer. I'm trying my hardest to get better at that. So please be patient with me, but I am going to try to get better. But the reason why I think that might be one of the ones that I'm most excited about, I guess, or most proud of, is because I've heard of a lot of people that have built this and love it. And that to me is really important, because if I'm going to put my name out there, I'm going to say, hey, this is good, and I think you should do this. To hear the feedback on that is just really, really nice to do. And all those parts you can buy from Parts Express, minus the case. The case you have to buy from Kent Audio, but it's literally something that any single person, I believe, can do. And it's cheap. And it's the same module that they used in Rotel used to use that module in their high-end amplifiers. Belcanto did. There were quite a few. I can't think of all of them. I mentioned them on the top of A Wire for Sound was another one. I mentioned them in the video, but yeah, recently some people have actually created those and then done other videos on them and whether they thought they were good or not, which there it is right there. Thomas and Stereo did one. But yeah, there's a certain portion of that where it really is cool for me to bring products like that for $300. You can build it, because most of us cannot afford to spend $3,000 on our hi-fi amplifier, but we might be able to spend $300 for a nice stereo, high fidelity amplifier.
You know, and talking about that building the hi-fi amplifier for 300, that was a very cool video. And even going back to what we talked about collab, we had talked about yesterday, I'm thinking about building new speakers for my videos to test when I test amps for the listening portion. And now, you know, Nick's like 4 or 5 hours away from me. Maybe at some point I'll be able to drive up there and we could build something together. That'd be a cool video. But now that I see this amplifier,
Yeah.
I've got a handheld amp dyno that we could bring and see what it actually puts out. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun, because I actually have, you know, that's the one thing I don't know. A lot of people ask me, like, do these really output what they output? And I'm just honest with them and say, I really don't know. And most of the time I'll say, check out Big D Wiz if he's done a dyno on it. I'm sorry, Williston Audio Labs now, formerly known as Big D Wiz, formerly known as Prince. Check him out, because he's done it. So like the La Pi, that 160 watt one, where I didn't know. I honestly did not know what it put out or anything. I would tell everyone that went to it, hey, go check it out, because he tested it. And I'm not going to tell them the results. You guys gotta watch the video. Just watch the video if you want the results. You gotta put some work into it.
Somebody will screenshot it and put it on Facebook there.
Probably right.
They always do. Like, no, you must watch. You must watch ads too. It's part of the experience. We don't. I mean, we do this for fun, but hey, we got to get, you know, at least our minimum wage out of it, right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that people don't understand. I think everyone thinks that everyone that has a YouTube channel makes buku dollars, just because you have 30,000 subscribers, 168,000 guys. It's not much money. Like, you think it's a lot of. It's not. It's really not a lot of money. There's some people out there that make a lot of money. Dude Perfect. Okay, they make a lot of money. Us, no. And that's why we appreciate the support of even just subscribing, watching the videos, you know, sharing it with your friends. I know for me, like, whenever I see someone shares a video, man, it means a lot to me, because I know that, one, they got something out of it, and two, that they liked it enough to be able to share that experience with someone else. Before I did this, I used to be a counselor. And one of the things that people would often do for me in counseling would share books with me. And for me, one of the important things of doing that would be to read that book. Because if someone gave me a book and said, here, I think you would be enriched by reading this book, I want to read that book because that person thought of me. And because they thought of me, whether I like it or not, it's that, I don't know, there's an intrinsic feeling there that you can't get any other way. And that thought, if I were to just kind of brush it aside, it's almost like saying, I don't really care that you thought of me when you thought of this. So to me, that when people share videos, that means a lot to me.
I agree. It definitely is, just expands the community. And, a lot of times that's what's great about doing the collaboration stuff too, because some people who watch your DIY videos may not have seen HiFiVega. Yeah. And people that watch HiFiVega may not have seen 123 Toyed and don't know anything about your $300 amplifier that's same as a $3,000 amp. So that's what's cool about all this, because it all goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's a big community. If you're into audio, then you're probably going to be into a lot of the things that we all do. Maybe not everything we all do, but a portion of it. And that's what's so neat to me about YouTube is, like, I remember back in the day, when like Tech TV started coming on cable, it was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever, because I'm a geek. I like to watch technology stuff. But when YouTube hit the market, like now, it's like Rob and I talk about all the time. I don't really have to watch anything on TV anymore. Yeah. I go on YouTube and go through my subscriber list, and I build like watch lists, and I've got more content that I could ever take in. And it's all super cool because you're getting very unique, very geeky, whatever you want to be type content. And that's what's so neat about YouTube. And the fact that we can do it, we make a little bit of money, and we just get to grow the communities and do things we love to do. And not all of us can make it a day job. Some people can, but it's still fun, and that's what it's all about, and helping people, like you said before too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask me, like, why do I share my knowledge? Because building crossovers is a very niche thing. A lot of people don't do that. That's one of the things that really got my channel started, right? Because there's this belief, because in car audio, for example, when you buy a component speaker set, typically you get the midwoofer, you get the tweeter, and then you get this little crossover unit that you put in the door, or wherever it fits. Anyone that's done car audio for a long time knows that unit that comes with it is a nice unit to have, but it's not typically optimal. If you want to make it optimal, you're either going to have to do a new passive crossover or do some type of DSP to it, or whatever. If you're going for sound quality, if you're going for SPL, it might be a different story, but if you're going for sound quality. And so, on my channel, I teach people a lot, like, how do you actually take these parts and build your own crossover for these speakers so that it can have that sound quality that you want. And people ask me a lot, like, why do I do that? Because since it's so niche, I mean, I could keep that to myself, but I don't know, if you can do it, why not share it with others that can also do that as well? And there's a lot of people, I remember when the forums first came out, I would hear people that say, man, I want to build my own speaker. They're so excited about it, super stoked. And the first response they get was, yeah, just buy a pre-made kit, which is not bad advice. But for those who want to take it further, guys, there's not a lot of classes that you can do that with right now, right? Like, you're not going to go to college to necessarily learn how to build a crossover or make your speaker boxes. You're not going to learn how to do those things. You need to find someone that knows how to do it. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I did this, is to help bring that to other people. And that's also the reason why I started my forum towards DIY audio, because that way when people have those questions, they can come and they don't have to worry about being made fun of or tell them not to do it or move forward. I feel like, hey, man, if you're going to try it, go ahead. Realize that you might make some mistakes and you may upgrade later or might change it a little later. It's not a big deal. Just, in my experience, go ahead and at least try it.
Well stated. Very, very, very much agree with everything you just said. That's so true across the board. We didn't really get into your goals for your channel. Do you have any particular goals? Like, do you set a goal saying I want to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year? I mean, do you have any goals other than educating people? Because it sounds like, from the beginning, you kind of said you didn't really plan on doing a YouTube channel. You didn't really, plan it out. Have things changed now that you've got close to 30,000 subscribers?
Some things have changed. I've done more things on my channel. The biggest thing that's changed is being able to do cooler projects that you guys want to do. I was blessed by Parts Express approaching me really early in my career, YouTube career, and sponsoring my channel, and they have been great. If you guys aren't familiar with Parts Express, go there. They're just fantastic people to work with. The company in general is just a great company. They do an awesome audio fest every year called Midwest Audio Fest. You can get some cheap speakers there. Lots of car audio speakers, home audio speakers, drivers. And so my biggest goal is just to do cooler videos that you guys like. So some of the videos I have coming up, I talked about the uglies already. So doing like a home audio setup. I also Thanks, FRO74, man. That's awesome. I'm excited to have you, man. Oh, Basehead. What the heck, guys? You guys are awesome. I'm excited to see you guys. But I'm going to try to also do some really cool things too, such as maybe make a personal home theater, like a little 2-seater home theater where you can just go in and watch. And I'm mainly using it for my kids. And I also like a DIY racing arcade with your own, speakers put up to it, maybe a MAME arcade cabinet with, your own, once again, custom speakers and that. And then I also want to do some that are built and designed as furniture. So this one, right, I can't get my orientation correct. That one right there, that's actually a speaker that I'm designing with a fabric over it, which is an acoustically transparent fabric. And when it's finished, what you'll be able to do is print off whatever you want. So we all like HiFiVega's poster in the back. So if you really like HiFiVega's poster in the back, you could actually print that poster right on the fabric and then have that hanging up in your house where it looks like a piece of furniture. And no one will know it's a speaker except for you. And that one's pretty cool too, because that one I ran as Bluetooth and with a little amplifier in there and some battery packs. So you can actually charge it up overnight and then eventually just unplug it during the day and have it playing. And it really does have that wife acceptance factor as well, which is kind of cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
So I don't have like goals as far as subscribers and stuff, but if you guys want to make me goals, I'm fine with that.
Content goals. Same way.
Yeah, content goals is cool too. A video a week. It's all what you want to put into it. And I think I've seen changes in the amount of people that watch and the amount of people subscribe based on kind of having a regular schedule. But it works different for everybody because some people just do it whenever and they still get a lot of positive feedback. But it's not something that just your bread and butter. You don't have to worry about it. That's the cool thing. That's what makes it fun. I don't know that it would be quite as fun as if you had to do this every day. I don't know. Maybe it would be because Rob and I both have some opinions about that. We'd like to find out.
We'd like to find out.
Yeah.
What do you say we let Nick kind of pimp his channel out and anything he wants to say, and then sign out and go on to the ramps and amps?
Yeah, Nick, tell us about. We obviously given you your YouTube channel. It's 123 Toy. Tell us about your forum and anything else. Obviously, Parts Express has worked with you. Anything else you want to talk about?
I have a lot of companies that work with me. Relic is another company that works with me a lot, which should do some really cool Wi-Fi modules that do whole house audio setup, which I really love because I'm a big DIY guy and they do a lot of DIY stuff. But I do have a forum called Toyd's DIY Audio. If you guys want to check it out, there's car audio stuff, there's home audio stuff. It's a lot of DIY stuff there. And really, the whole point of it is to create like a safe space for you to come, be able to share your ideas, be able to get help, and not get shot down. If there's people on there that are shooting people down, they're gone. I don't keep them around because it's not what that place is there for. That's not to say that you can't criticize or critique things. You definitely can. But there's a forum up there. And the one other thing that I'm doing for the DIY crowd that a lot of DIY crowd doesn't know yet is there's a shop up there that you can go to. Now you can buy things from me, but I'm also letting people that have, like, if you're a DIYer and you have speaker products that you want to sell there, I'm allowing people to sell their projects there because, you can do it on Etsy, but the problem is being found on Etsy. It's so hard to be found. And so, like, that's B-Box One. He's the one that actually created that competition that I won with the Vroom Vroom Boom. He's got that really cool speaker on there, which is a boom box on there. If you have ones that you want to put on there, it's absolutely free to list. Doesn't cost anything to list. You can go ahead and throw your project up there. You do have to register. But yeah, you can get some really cool projects there. I don't have a ton to say about the channel. If you guys like it, it's DIY stuff. One of the things I notice is, unfortunately, a lot of the DIY stuff people like just watching you build it. I'm more of a explaining while I build it type guy. So expect that to happen. And I've been told on numerous occasions that I guess I have bad musical taste as well. So be careful. You're going to get some bad music choices, I guess. But if you have music suggestions, you're welcome to give them to me.
Well, we have to be so careful anyway for copyright. So we have to kind of choose what YouTube allows us to play back.
Yeah,
which is also bad music.
Because Well, Rob actually even created some beats for us before using GarageBand, and some of that stuff even got flagged.
Yep.
I mean, so it's like, really? I mean, he actually made it himself. And the problem is once you get, it's you're guilty until proven innocent kind of thing. So like your video gets hit, then bam, they've got 30 days where they're holding on to your ad revenue. So it kind of stinks.
And if you guys ever want to hear the story on that, I could do a whole 12-volt talk episode talking about that.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just saying we'll save that one definitely for a future episode. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember one of my videos. I did a definitive technology clone, and it was for the Center channel, and that got flagged as soon as I put the word clone on there. It was like, I was like, what did I do wrong? And I guess there's something against cloning on there. Luckily, YouTube does recognize the difference between cloning human beings and animals versus cloning speakers. So they did eventually let me have that video, but I thought I was gonna have to change the name. I don't even know what another. You know what? I didn't look in the thesaurus for another.
Thesaurus, you got to do it.
Yeah, I know. I should.
All right, I'm gonna sign us out, but first, I have to ask you one question.
Oh no.
Were you into BMX?
If I say yes, does that make it like cooler?
Yes.
Yes.
What bike did you have? Now, so you got to back it up.
Now you can't. Yeah, now you can't lie.
No, I didn't. No, I wasn't. I know you guys both are. I see. I'm a few years behind. Not much, but enough that I think it wasn't as cool when I grew up. And I think the other thing is I grew up in Illinois, which is all flat land. Yeah. It makes a big difference, I think.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll show some content on my channel so you can appreciate that. We're gonna bring some more BMX.
I saw your old BMX. I saw some of your BMX videos. They were awesome. I was like, is that the same guy for real?
Yeah, that was me way back in the day. And one more question that we always forget to ask our guests.
Oh no.
iOS or Android?
You use iOS. I'm an Android guy.
Okay. That's
did you see his face? Did you?
I did.
He had like a slight. He had a slight like.
I think he just blocked me.
It was like a hint of disgust, I think.
I have both. I have a Pixel 3 XL and I have an iPhone. Yes. So I have both. I don't hate.
No, I don't hate either. But I will tell you this: my wife and I. Two real quick stories. All right. The first story was my wife and I first got married, and I drank whole milk and she drank skim milk. And I said to her eventually, I said, Sarah, this is getting ridiculous. We're buying 2 things of milk every time. Can we just compromise and do 2% milk? Exactly. And she looked at me and goes, ugh, no way. That's so disgusting. And I remember responding back to her and said, I'm going down 98%. You're going up 2%. I think it's a pretty good compromise. Even that's not exactly how milk works, but she laughed. And I say that story because when we got married, we were buying Android and iPhones, and we were buying all the different cables, right? Like, because everything Apple is completely proprietary, which is the only reason why I stay away from Apple is because it's so proprietary. And she eventually switched over to Android and has been happy ever since. But for me, it's just easier. We can each get our individualized phone that we like and still use the same, devices. Like as far as charging, we can both use a Roku and throw our stuff up on the Roku or whatever.
I mean, this explains why you didn't like your video shooting on your cell phone. Now we know.
Yeah, it's my Galaxy. You're right.
Yeah. So let me shout out. I didn't write them down, so I'm doing from memory. We had Basshead Go Boom, William Berg, Sean Kay. Who else? Mark Crowley. We had one more person I'm forgetting, Gene Nava. Did I get everybody? I think so. All right, so you guys know what it is. The show's over. Check us out, 12E Talk. You know where it is. Every other Wednesday now. Check out Williston Audio Labs. Obviously, you know who he is. HiFiVega 123 Toyd. And yeah, let's get into amps and ramps.
Sounds good. Thanks everybody for joining. We will see you in a couple weeks. Those who are here on youtube.com/12E Talk or Facebook. And there's Dean or Fernando in the house.
Yeah.
What's going on? Good to see you there, sir. So we're going to scroll through here and we will check out and see what kind of comment/questions we have. If anybody has a specific question for Mr. 123 Toyd, please leave it in the video description. Now, I will say this real quick. I'm sorry, don't leave it in the video description. Type a comment. I will say this real quick. This week, obviously, CES. Rob and I will probably do a follow-up show next week or the next 12-volt talk where we're going to talk about some of the stuff that came out, mostly car audio, but if there's any real cool home audio or some accessories type thing, we'll talk about that as well. So if you guys come across anything, send it to 12vtalk@gmail.com. We're going to try to keep track of everything that's released. I know there's supposed to be some bigger announcements later this week from some of the big companies in car audio. Obviously the 8K TVs and all that stuff and whatever cool audio equipment. I know Joe and Tell is out there. Him and Techno Dad are walking around, and they actually do a podcast too. So make sure you check them out so that you can catch up on what type of things they see. And
they were live streaming from the Focal hotel room today. I caught it. They were up there just turning everything up.
Oh, cool. All right, we'll scroll through and see if we see any in particular questions here.
While you scroll through, I'm going to talk about something I seen from CES that has nothing to do with car audio. It's the Insta360 1R action camera. Have you seen it, Nick? You hadn't got a chance to see it? It's a modular action camera. You can get a 360 cam or the original 4K cam, but it's all modular. The battery, the main, the lens, and then the main camera body is all one piece, and it's actually smaller than a GoPro.
Wow.
It's waterproof up to 15 foot right off the back. But the more interesting part is you can get a lens module that has a 1-inch sensor with a Leica lens on it. And it'll shoot up to 5.3K at 60 frames.
Yeah, the demo videos they have on it are just Rob sent it to me today and I watched it and I was like, whoa, I gotta have one of those. It's not cheap. I mean, they're like with the Leica 1-inch sensor lens is what, was it $549 or $6?
It's like $549, something like that.
$549.
I a lot less loved now since everyone else got the video but me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you'll get it shortly. So somebody posted a comment, DINAs, is that really an acronym for Do I Need a Sub?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It's Do I Need a Subwoofer? Ironically, there are actually two 5.25-inch subwoofers in the bottom, but the basic premise is you could put these up in your room and you don't need a subwoofer. And you know, all that depends on the size of your room, obviously. But yeah, I mean, they will rock. I don't know. Have you guys used those? Because they're used a lot in car audio.
No.
They're actually used a lot in movie theaters too, which most people don't know that either, but not for the reason that you're thinking.
Yeah, and the story of how that got its name, didn't you guys have it in the forum or the comment section? I remember seeing that in the video.
Yeah, it was Reddit. Yeah, and me and Joe talked about it, and he really liked that, and it was really cool. I gotta say, you know, I love collaborating with people, and I've really enjoyed collaborating with Joe on that because when I collaborate with people, sometimes our ideas are a little polar opposite of what we're thinking. I mean, I don't care. We can do whatever you want, but with him, we had both had the idea already of putting that's basically a Paul Carmody voxel sub that I completely redesigned with a little bit different size enclosure and a front slot port. And then, of course, the two-way speaker above it. And it was really cool to be able to be on the same page with him on that.
Yeah, that is nice when you're thinking the same way, and you don't have to fight amongst it.
Yes.
So, Nick, have you seen these Hutchison audio subs? I'm just going to show you real quick what these people are talking about so you can see.
I saw on your video. I was talking about it earlier.
Yeah, that is an amazing piece of artwork there.
Jewelry.
It's actually not I mean, I know it's only an 8-inch sub, but it's not a bad price.
Yeah. They doesn't he cast? I know he makes all his own carbon fiber for sure, but I think they might actually mill the baskets out too.
We need to hit them up, Rob. I'll hit him up because he requested to friend me not long ago on Facebook. So I'll hit him up and see if he wants to be on here. I know he was on Everyday Audios before. That was a really good episode. But we can get an SQ aspect instead of a SPL.
I think Fade would argue you on that. The base miner. Yeah, Dean, that camera that I was talking about, that's exactly what I was thinking. It'd be a nice, like a vlogging camera. It's got a mic out and everything. I mean, you can just all in one setup. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah, give me a minute and I'll pull it up so you guys can see it. Because it's pretty sweet.
I did see a question.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a question by Jesse Strawn that asked me, oh, you guys just pulled it up.
Yep.
That's a good question, Jesse. Let me first explain the difference between DIY Sound Group and some of the things that I do. DIY Sound Group, by the way, the DIYSG stands for DIY Sound Group. It's a fantastic website. You can get flat packs and speakers already there. They sell the speakers, all the components. They'll give you all the crossover components. Ryan Boma actually created some of the best speakers on there. They're called the Elusive 1099s. He runs a channel called Impulse Audio. If you haven't done it, if you haven't seen that, check it out. Him and I are friends. He's up there in Canada. Really great guy. What most DIY Sound Group kits are they're PA audio speakers. Okay, now that's pro audio. They are very high efficiency grade audio speakers, but because of high efficiency, stands for Hoffman's Law. Okay, I'm not going to get into Hoffman's Law right now, but because they're high efficiency, they don't go real low. Now, typically, when I'm going to build a tower speaker, I'm going to typically build something that goes a lot lower, but because it goes a lot lower, it also is less efficiency, meaning that you're going to need more power to power it, or a better amplifier. Most of those on there are like 99 decibel things. Now, there's one other thing that I want to talk about with the difference, and basically the answer is no. But one other thing that I would mention to you about those speakers is if you notice, like a lot of them will have like a really big, large woofer, and then you'll notice that they're they have a tweeter, which is a compression tweeter, and that compression tweeter is hooked up to a waveguide. Now, the reason why that is hooked up that way is compression tweeters you can typically get a lot lower. And the reason why you need to get a lot lower is because some of those woofers that they put in there are 10, 12, 15, 18 inches. And the beaming, which is the sound, so typically sound radiates outward in a nice polar pattern, which we want. But when we start getting a bigger speaker, that pattern starts to go smaller depending on the frequency. So the higher in frequency, eventually it gets to a beaming pattern. And that'll happen a lot sooner on a bigger woofer, like a 10 or 12 inch woofer. And that's why you get a lot of three ways in like home audio. And the way that DIY Sound Group gets away with some of that is, once again, they don't port it quite as low. So you get a lot of good like 90, 80 hertz bass, and some you can even get lower than that. But they use that compression driver that can cross over so soon, so you don't have to worry about that beaming. I don't do a lot of compression drivers on my channel, at least not at this moment. I might, because I am thinking about doing an outdoor theater. I now live on 7 acres. I have a pool in the back, and I think it'd be really cool to have an outdoor theater kind of next to the pool, so I can be like laying in the pool and watching a movie or a show or YouTube. Maybe I'll be checking out HiFiVega and Williston Audio Labs while I'm lounging in the pool. You never know. So I've been considering that because I think that would be really cool. And then if I did that, I would absolutely use PA drivers. But as of right now, I don't use a lot of PA drivers right now.
Yeah, I think you explained that pretty good.
Yeah, great feedback. I was trying to find the camera. I found the Insta1R, Rob, but for some reason it's not showing the Leica adapter.
You got to click it. It's in the when you go down a little farther. Oh yeah, where was it? I can't remember exactly.
I saw it earlier today. I wonder if they pulled it off because it doesn't even show that lens as an option anymore.
Does it not? Uh-oh. That's the whole reason to get it for me.
Yeah. It looks pretty sweet. Definitely looks pretty sweet.
But I see it, the 1-inch edition. Let me see.
Did I miss it? Oh, there it is. Yep, you're right. Right here.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Okay, so there you go. You can see it. Look at all the pieces, the way it comes apart. And it's modular. You can actually put a 360-degree camera on one side. You can take it off and put the 1-inch. All kind of stuff. You can buy the separate modules.
And that's cool. You can flip the screen front facing so you can frame your shot.
Yeah, that's really sick.
Yeah, I want one pretty bad.
And it's 4K 60 rod, 5.3K 30, so still pretty good. It's 1080
with the 1-inch module. It's 5.3K 60.
Okay, well we'll have to check that out. That's really cool. Yeah. But if you look at the demo video they have, it'll make you want to go buy one.
Oh yeah,
it's got a super good motion, not motion. What do you call it? Stabilizer.
Stabilization, yeah.
Yeah, stabilization is pretty slick.
Thanks, Third Era. Appreciate it.
All right, sorry, I'm sidetracked.
Yeah, me too. I was yesterday was my day off, so I was up late. I was just scrolling through, watching every video I could because they just released the information yesterday, and everyone was under embargo, so they put their videos out yesterday. Here you go. There's Dean. Great, more money.
Yeah. Dean's already got about 15 cameras, I think, around there that he uses all day to record stuff.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get him back on and ask him what his storage means are. Does he have like a NAS or something? Because there's no telling how much content he does. Like 12 videos in 7 days or something. He's got to have 100 gigs a week.
We need to have him on just for production talks. Just talk about his cameras, talk about his production schedule, and that'd be a whole hour easy.
Yeah, Nick, I'm not sure if you watched that one, but 5 Star Car Stereo, they do pretty much like a vlog of the installs they do during the day, and they'll work all day doing installs, and then Dean stays up at night and edits the videos, and he puts out like 5 videos a week. They do like 2 live streams.
Yeah, I was just checking him out. I actually just subscribed to him because I had not. And I think that's the cool thing. And for me, YouTube is more of a community than I see so many people out there like fighting for subscribers. It's like, why, dude? There's enough fish in the world for like all of us. You know, like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Someone that's watching YouTube watches YouTube. It's not, they don't watch one person, they watch YouTube. So for me, it's always trying to get these people like all together. And that's why I like collaborating with people, is because it's like, hey man, if I collaborate with you, 1, you get a really cool speaker, which is awesome for you. And 2, we just get to like, I don't know, I like to hang out with people that like to do the same things I do. Call me weird, but yeah, if you share the same interest with me, I don't mind hanging out with you.
Yeah, man, the more people you get, I mean, the more people are watching YouTube videos, the better for everybody. It's just, you know, magazine of choice, MCM Electronics catalog.
Yeah, they were bought. Weren't they bought a couple years ago by somebody? I don't remember who it was.
Newmark.
Yeah, Newark.
Something like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh right, Newark. Yeah, they do a lot.
What else did we have in here? Any other questions?
I guess I'm not that interesting of a person.
Well, we kind of get a little loose in the after show, so.
Yeah, you know, people have said that. Use whatever power supply you want. Okay, I said you need by minimum a 12-volt 6-amp power supply, which is 72 watts. I'm only powering 2 speakers. Most of those car audio systems that say 4 by 50 watts don't do 4 by 50 watts.
Yeah. They do like 14 watts, 12 watts a channel.
Right. So I'm using a 72 watt power supply to power 2 speakers off a car stereo. It's probably 30 watts. So you should be fine with that. I mean, if you're going to be powering a subwoofer, a bunch of like a subwoofer amplifier and a bunch of other stuff, that you definitely can't use that. But I'm going to stand behind it that it's okay. It's good enough.
Yeah. I mean, a car stereo head unit is literally it's a very small draw unless you're talking like Panasonic made some high power ones. Rockford Fosgate did too, but it's
So I'm going to mention two things. Jesse Strom asked that question. I'm going to mention something else. Someone else, True Voice of Reason says, Nick, how about the esoterics? And I want to point that out because one of the things that I do is I get a lot of things in. And so on my website, I do weekly giveaways. I'm sorry, monthly. Geez, I just got more generous by the day. No, monthly giveaways where I typically give away something that I've reviewed if I can. I don't do it every month, but I try to do it whenever I have stuff. And he won the 5.5-inch esoteric drivers. So that's why he said that. And those are awesome drivers. I can't wait to see what he does with them. He's going to hopefully do something on it. But 123 Toy, do you have a sound treated listening room you demo your builds in? I just moved. So moved my family across country from Pennsylvania all the way to Tennessee. So it's a long move, big move. We moved the entire house and everything. As of right now, I do not. I will have a video out on how to do sound treatment in the rooms, which will be kind of cool. Some of my patrons also requested how to set up your speakers in your room for the best listening. So we'll probably do a video on that at some time. I don't know when. And I have to build some speakers first to put in the room. So as of right now in this house, I do not have a sound treated room. Most of my stuff will be done outside.
He's right. I take that as a compliment, man. You do kind of look like Seth Rogen.
I was trying to figure it out, and that's it. They got it.
Wait, so does that have wife acceptance factor or non-wife acceptance factor?
Well, you could be the stand-in, so you've got a side gig if you ever need one.
I doubt it.
You see your wife watching some Seth Rogen, like, oh, that guy's kind of cute. Like,
I always wondered that because she watches every Seth Rogen movie. I never understood that. I get it. Thank you.
I have to say that in the short time I've talked to you, I like you much more than I would like being around that dude. So you're much cooler.
I'm not sure if that says a lot or not, but I appreciate it.
Oh man. Well, Dereck.
Yeah,
looks
like we're good, and let Mr. Nick get back to his daily activities. I'm sure he has other things he needs to get to. Thanks for your time, Nick. We appreciate you joining us for our episode tonight. And we'll definitely have to work some collabs in the future. Rob's close enough to you where y'all can do something, and maybe you and I can do something remotely or whatever, and we'll keep growing the community and help people out, which is what we all enjoy doing.
Yeah, I'd love to build you some nice speakers for that iPhone.
There you go.
Speaking of that, Rob, you have to remind me on the next episode. I have to show you the new dock that I bought for Christmas for my iPod. It's the coolest iPod dock ever.
Dude. Is it an old one? Because they're changing a port next year.
Teaser for everybody out there. Watch next episode. I will show you the dock for my iPhone, which is the coolest thing you've ever seen.
Awesome. Can't wait.
All right.
Thank you for having me, man. I really enjoyed being on here with you guys. You guys are great.
Thanks, Nick. It was great chatting with you, and great learning more about your channel and everything. Everybody, make sure you go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Check out some of his old videos. Put them in a playlist. Watch them when you can. You'll find a lot of useful information there. So
wait. Can you sign us with the 123 Toyed out?
Oh yeah, sure. This is 123 Toyed, and I'm out.
There you go. That's how you know I'm a real OG.
Yeah, it's sad. I'm no longer doing that anymore. Why are you guys still here? I thought we left. I thought we left.
Oh man.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We're signing out.